do
Okay.
that.
All right. So when Ruben, when you got here, I was looking we were looking at maps, trying to figure out exactly where the camp was and everything else was.
It was across the river from Hatien.
Okay, well, this is the map here. As near as I can make out, that the Chau was right in that little green circle.
I think that's about right, yeah.
The actual town of Hatien seemed to be up here, but there are a couple of SF camps or a couple of places where SF were. They were right
That
opposite.
came much later. That came sometime in 1967, 405 Hatien. That came in 67.
Yeah. Well, were you here or were you down here?
Well, when you mentioned the fact that we're supposed to be like across the river from Hatien, it was probably down here, but it didn't seem that far to get to there. But I guess we were down here, yeah.
Well, the problem is this is a 1/250,000 map, and I'm missing this map sheet at 1/50,000. So if I look at 1/50,000, everything north of the channel, or actually north of this peninsula, is falls off the map. So if I want to go out to this other piece here,
Okay.
okay, there is what I think is where the Chau camp was, right on that runway. Hatien.
Yeah, that's exactly, you're right. You're right. The runway was there at the steel PVC or whatever that stuff was called, the steel matting.
Okay. But I'm not really sure who and what was here. It looks like the waterway came down right between here. So
Yeah.
going up to the
These
canal.
camps were opened up later in late 67, I believe. I left in October 67 and I was in Canto by then as the assistant 3. Henry Cook was still there and Captain Hendricks and BT Collins had already been evacuated. And sometime in 66,
that was out of this camp.
citizens.
That was out of this location here.
Yeah, right, correct.
Okay. So I don't know what these locations are. They're reported on different papers as being locations of the camp. But
may have been moved later on after I left, because this mountain right here was the one that always gave us concern, because from up there somebody could easily mortar and shell us, so we used to keep some people up there.
as an FOB,
I'm sorry?
as you had kept
Well,
people up there as FOB.
It's more of a listening post.
Okay. Now, was it on the north side of the water or the south side?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Apparently, there was a waterway is coming right down between these two circles, and this one here is on the same plot of land as Hatien on the other side of the hill, and
Yeah,
or on Chau. This one here is on the far side. Had to take a
Yeah,
ferry
that's-
to go from here to there.
no, I never had anything to do with this one up here. With the red one that you got marked with red circles, I think that came later in 67. I
Okay.
was already in Canto as the assistant 3.
Art, welcome. Art, is your sound on? Let's see. I'll stop sharing this. All right. Where else?
It's Terry Fox. I got to change the name.
Okay. Thank you. That I didn't know who you were there. I will fix that for you. Hold on.
I'm doing it right now as we speak.
Okay, you're going to take care of it. I won't worry.
All done.
All that. Okay, look, I was just going through a roster for June of 1970, and you show up on the roster. But on June 1st, 1970, according to my records, that camp was closed.
What, you talking to me?
I'm talking to
Steve?
you as Terry Fox.
Yeah. I returned the beginning of June. Are you talking about Chilang or
No, I'm talking
Canto?
about 403 in Canto.
Yeah, my recollection is the camp was still there. It was at Canto. It was that was the B team.
The Canto is Canto is the B team, but the roster lists the B team and lists most, not all, but many of the people from 403 are still there listed as 403. My information was that 403 was formally closed down on May 31st. But this roster is a day later, and I have 8 or 10 people that belong to A403 on the roster.
Yeah, by May and June, I was at the B team. I left when I got promoted to captain in February. I went from the 403 to the B40. I was the assistant S3 at B40.
Okay. Did you note anything happening with the 403 while you were the S3? Did they close it?
Well, you're asking me something that happened 50 some years ago. I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. And my recollection is that 403 was still there.
Well, according to the roster, that you seem to be quite correct. Unfortunately, all I have is my information. Let me go back here.
Terry, the only way I can remember what I had for breakfast is to look at my shirt.
Or sometimes you run to the bathroom to make sure you flushed yesterday's.
Okay.
My recollection is that at 403, Tibor was the XO then after I left.
Tibor was the XO and Sherwood was the CO, according to the roster.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but what was his first name? What was Sherwood's first name?
Oh no, sorry, it's backwards. Let's see, what's his no, it was Anthony Sherwood.
Anthony.
Yeah.
Tony or Anthony. Well, I don't have all my military records here with me. I'm in Nevada right now, and most of my records are in Florida. But yeah, Tibor would remember better because he was still in 403, as I recall.
Yeah, it was Anthony Sherwood. He is listed as the CO, and his father was also in Special Forces long before.
Wow.
And he'd been there in the mid 60s, running operations, intelligence operations that were precursors of B-57. Now, Tibor hasn't answered my phone calls for a while. I talked to him a couple of years ago, but he looks like he's moved at least.
That's too bad. I was hoping he'd come on. I haven't seen him in 50 plus years.
Well, he's been around. He wrote a book with his wife that I thought was reasonably good. And so I was surprised though that he fell off the radar screen. Yeah. Randy,
Yeah.
you survived from yesterday, huh?
What now?
You survived from yesterday.
Yeah. I just keep plugging along day to day.
Okay.
Yeah, that looks like me.
What? All right. Let's see. Where are you here? I don't know. Okay. Well, I hope there'll be some more people showing up, but I won't hold everything up here for that time. We have Ruben Garcia, who is one of the earliest people at A-432, and Mateo Alcaraz was there almost the same time, going beyond his time. Randy is in the middle, I think, and Terry is there toward the end. So we have a relatively comprehensive listing of covering the period of time that was there. Okay, now we have Tom. Let's find out which Tom that is. Tom?
Tom Nelson.
Okay. And Nelson.
Hey,
Okay.
have you ever come in contact with Tom Daniels?
Tommy Daniels was here yesterday,
Oh,
and I expect him here today because he wandered all through all the teams at B40.
yeah, yeah. He was my CO when I was the XO there.
Mhm. So let me just get a perspective on this for me. Fine. Okay. All right, Tom, when were you and where were you?
I think I just lost you here a second. Wait a second.
At 403, what was your job?
405, I was communications.
Okay, this the 403 is. Were you also at 403 as well?
No, maybe
You're a day early.
okay, I'll come back and try another day then.
Well, you're welcome to stay here. There's nothing special secret going on here. It's only limited to A403. You can stay as long as you want. If it gets boring, you can wander off.
All right, well, at least I know how to get in here, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Ruben, when you came in there, what had been established already on that team? Was there a team in place, or you started up?
Are you talking to me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. When I first got there in October of '66, I got sent to 415. I think it was Captain Bays or McBays, I'm not sure. The thing I remember most about him, when I got there on a Sunday, he was making a goulash. He poured a whole bottle of wine into it, and it was great. Had a great meal. They had just started coming down from the floods, and I went out on a couple of airboats, and they still had the water mark almost up to the ceiling on their hooches. Then I got sent out to a CIDG camp, me and one NCO. About 2 weeks into that, I got a message that a helicopter was coming to pick me up and taking me back to Canto. I had no idea why. When I got there, the XO, who was Texas Sam, I don't remember his full name, sat me down and he asked me, what did I think about the Vietnamese? I gave him my opinion, and he said, well, Colonel Kelly has ordered that each corps have a mobile guerrilla company. and we're behind the power curve. So we're gonna let you choose up a team, pick whoever you want. That never happened, by the way, because nobody was gonna give me their best man. And we went to Fuqua Island with a company Wahao and a platoon of Cambodian nuns. And we trained there by the runway for 3 weeks. And on the 1st of January, General Westmoreland came on to shake hands and tell everybody you're doing a good job. A week or so later, we got alerted to go to Nui Kham Mountain in the 7 Mountains area right next to Shilang. We flew into Shilang in Caribous. We waited there, we got everybody together, and we went around the mountain and up one side. When we were up there, the Wahao decided that they were flatlanders and didn't want to be in the mountains. So what did they do? They quit. And I got orders to bring them down one side of the mountain, which was so steep we were sitting on our butts, sliding down the mountain. When we got to the, just almost to the runway at Chilang, all of a sudden, Major Marichek with the entire Mike force jumped up. I don't know if you remember Major Marichek. Later on, he got accused of killing his wife at Fort Bragg, and he got tried 3 times and finally was sent to jail. I think he's dead now. I think he finally passed away.
He passed away.
Yeah. And for a while there, when I was out of Mud Lake with what used to be Blue Light and then became Special Operations and Training, he was the 3 at the Special Warfare Center. He called me a couple of times to say hello and ask me some questions about some old people that we knew. Well, back to Chilang. We came down. He surrounded the Wahao. Caribous came in. We stripped them of all their weapons, all their gear, put them in a plane and took them back home. I came back to Canton, wrote the after action report, and I was told that I was to go to Chau. I'm going to be very honest right now. I didn't want to go to Chau because the commanding officer who had taken over the mobile guerrilla company while I was out in operations, and they had started a second company, was Major Bruchette. And I would not work for Major Bruchette. I'm sorry to say that, but I'm going to be real honest about it. If I get sued, I get sued, but I wouldn't work for him. Didn't want nothing to do with that man. So I stayed in Canton until one day I'm in the shower, and I believe the colonel in charge of the Canton was Dallas. I'm not sure. I don't remember it quite clearly. And he looked at me and he said, I thought you were out at Chau. I said, no, sir, I'm not. The next day they shipped me down there. By that time, Bruchette was gone. That's when I met Henry Cook and B.T. Collins. A few weeks later, a captain by the name of Hendricks came in. And about a week, and then Master Sergeant Galen Kittleson came in. And we got notified to go back to the mountain. At this time, what was going on was the Mike Force and the Mobile Guerrilla Company, as I understood it, were coming down from Nha Trang to make a parachute jump. I guess Colonel Kelly wanted a star on his wings. And we were told to go and secure the drop zone. So we went and secured the drop zone, and they jumped in, and then we went up the ridge instead of the middle in the saddle. There was a saddle where they had an operation before with Major Bruchette, and I believe that's when Sergeant Lane got injured, when he got shot up. We went up there, we stayed up there for like about 7 days and made a contact during which Master Sergeant Kittleson got wounded on the nose. Very slight. He and I were shooting from we had a contact, and he and I were shooting from behind a boulder, and something hit between us, and either a piece of the bullet or a piece of rock hit him on the nose. We stayed up there, started raining like hell for several days, and we came back down. Then we went back to Chau. At that time, we found out that B.T. Collins had a leg and an arm blown off during the operation with him and Hendrick. I think they were down in the Human Forest or in that area. And BT, a grenade got him or somebody threw a grenade. He went to get rid of it and it went off on him in the swamp. He was looking for it in the swamp, bending down, blew off the leg above the knee and blew off his arm, just to the elbow. I was in the camp for another 4 or 5 weeks and I got orders to come to Canto and I was assigned, I had like about 6 months left, maybe less. I became the assistant 3. That's about it.
Mateo, why don't you take over from there? Mateo,
Yes, I'm here.
why don't you take over the story from there?
Yeah, it's pretty much correct though, because I believe Ruben was there before I was, and a lot of the activities was taking place when I wasn't there yet, and I was just trying to get my feet on the ground and get familiar with the area that we were living and operating in it.
What happened after Ruben left?
Things quiet down a little bit, but we started missing a lot of people because we've been committed to a lot of different locations to conduct operations and stuff. We used to see each other coming and going. So as far as being familiar with who and who was there, I pretty much recognize everybody because we stayed in place a lot of the times. And when the operations started opening, then everybody came and went and if you will, stayed on. And other than that, I thought the team was organized pretty well. We had some good, solid, mature individuals that was running the 403 and also 402 because sometimes we're joining up with each other, you know, and need some assistance and help because we were short-handed and stuff like that in certain things that we were doing out there.
Now there seemed to be a superstructure. You're at this point you're getting 2 A teams at 403 and 402, and you also had Hendricks, who was basically a 431 or something, mobile guerrilla force in charge of both teams. So there was a little bit of a headquarters element at that time controlling 2 A teams.
Yeah, and we had we spent a lot of time with we had a lieutenant named Mahaley, and we spent a lot of time in both detachment with each other because he was going a lot of times with us. See, and as far as the commanders and everything, they had higher takes in what the guys were doing in there, and we just primarily handled our own situation that we needed to do. But as far as relying to do the job and all that, things was operating well and time were moving a lot faster.
Now, the one difference between A402, 403 and other A camps is I don't believe you had any CID or LLDB officers there.
Correct. None.
None.
That's correct. None. With no LLDB.
Yeah, Randy, you come in at this point, you were overlapped with Mateo a little bit.
Yeah, but I remember Alcaraz as a bigger guy, not the guy I see on the screen here. But anyway, we had no LLDB. And then, but one time, 2 little LLDB lieutenants showed up and they had been directed to go out with us. I think we went to the Plain of Reeds or something. And they were deathly afraid of the troops. They didn't say a word. They stuck with the Americans. But that was the only time we ever saw LLDB. And they never came back or went out with us again. They didn't live in camp. They just showed up one morning and said they'd been directed to go out with us. Anyway. But Mateo, I remember
Good, good, excellent.
Huh?
I
You
said,
remember-
great.
Do you remember me?
Yes, I do.
For some reason, I've thought of you because you cooked a pig one time, and you sort of dug it into the ground, put big leaves over it. In other words, you knew what you were doing. I had never seen that before. You took the pig and you sort of dug a hole, put it in there, and then you put these big leaves, like banana leaves, over it, and it cooked overnight. And then we ate it the next day. I remember that.
That's the way it's done.
Huh?
That's a traditional Hawaiian luau there, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he knew what he was doing, but I had never seen that before, to cook a pig like that. I'm from New York City.
Look, Randy, while you were there, which was up until about March of '68, did 403 move to Canto before you left? Randy?
Oh, no, we split in about toward the end of February of '68. I was on 403, and then we split. But for some reason, I went to Muckwa with 402. So I was 6 months with 403 and 6 months with 402. But it was around the end of February that we split and went to two different locations.
Okay, you closed down 402 camp area. That the Chau camp was, both teams left. One
Both
went to
teams left.
Muckwa and one went to Canto.
Canto. But I was at Chau, I was on 403.
Right.
And then when we moved, I ended up at 402. I don't know the reason. Maybe it had to do with MOS's strengths, short people, people getting short. But yeah, I ended up on 402. And I mean, it was like no difference really.
No, but that's the break point there. When you left, that's when all the teams left.
Yeah.
And Chau was abandoned for a while, and then a team from Fuqua came in and took over that facility.
I sort of remember or heard that it was a training site for CIDG.
Yeah, that was the people from Fuqua that came in as 442.
But we also got people from Fuqua at Muckwa.
Yeah.
Three that I can remember came from the team at Fuqua and joined us at Muckwa after we'd been there about a month or so.
Yeah, they were breaking up things on Fuqua, and that put them around different places.
The team that was at Muckwa moved out to build a new camp for themselves, and they gave us the camp at Muckwa.
Yeah.
They had to have
country.
Yeah, we had to have a bigger camp plus a C-130 capability. But what was interesting is the team at Muckwa left their LLDB behind. The LLDB didn't move out with them to build a new camp, and it caused us a constant problem. I guess they felt they still had the camp, but we almost came to a shootout with them because it was constant conflict, and the troops hated them. But I forget what happened. Either they left eventually, I forget. But they never went out with us. They weren't part of the team or anything. And the same thing.
You were in Muckwa, you weren't responsible for local operations. You were running Mike Force operations wherever required.
Exactly. No, we didn't do anything around Muckwa. Seems like we spent a lot of time in the plain of reeds, over toward the border. Yeah.
The rest of you, Terry and Charles Stone and John Dunphy, you were all strictly at Canto, right? The team had not moved out of Chau, and you were now A-403 at Canto.
My recollection is the headquarters was in Canto, but we spent most of our time out at Chilang. Seven Sisters, Seven Mountains.
Because that's the area of operations that you had, or
Yeah.
you were just, the Chilang was a comfortable place to be.
Well, I don't know how comfortable it was, but it was it was a place to be.
Well, I think we think things were getting a little crowded in Canton. So because when they brought the battalions into Canton, they originally started out just with a B detachment headquarters, and that was across the runway from C4.
Right.
So as they moved in more A teams, they had to quarter you all. So sending you off to Chilang was probably not punishment as much as it was just to relieve the space. John and Charles, which of you were earlier?
I started out at A-404, and then when Captain McKinney went to the 403 there in Canton, he asked if I wanted to go, and so I went with him.
Okay, so that when was that?
Oh,
Okay, let's see when I put you there.
It seems like when we split up, it was about the same time B40 was formed at Canton. Because
Well, B40 was formally set up on May 1st, I think, or May 31st. Looks like John, you show up around June of '69, and Charles about November of '69. That sound right to both of you?
yeah.
Okay.
I remember getting to A403 in early July of '69. And if we were there at the same time, boy, you guys sure looked different back then. You were much taller.
And younger. Look, why don't we talk a little bit about Canton? Let me first of all put this map up here. Okay, C4 was over here, and according to my notes, B40 had this compound on the other side of the runway. Is that your recollection?
Yeah.
And that was it. You didn't really have any real expansion per se when you got to all the other battalions over there. You had to do with that basic plot of land because you had the city around you.
was 403 in the compound with B40?
Yeah.
I never went over there, but I don't know.
Yeah, you went to Mukwa.
Yeah, but I don't even remember processing out through B40. I have no recollection of B40. I knew 403 was there, but I had no recollection of that compound.
If you processed through anybody else, you would have processed through Canton, which is the other side of the runway.
I was in and out of Canton a couple of times for various reasons, but I have no recollection of B40. I knew it was there. I knew 403 went there, but I don't even think I processed out through B40. And that was in July of '68.
Yeah, no, I would have thought you would have gone straight to Canton for anything like that. Straight to the
I
seat.
was in B40.
Do I now?
Yeah, I was in B40. Stone talking.
But were you in B40 as a member of A403?
A403. I was with the 75th Rangers up at Tay Ninh, and they transferred me down to A403. I was at B40 for probably 2 or 3 days. Then I was sent to Mukwa, and that's where I was at Mukwa. I'm probably the shortest person in 403 because the first mission I was hit in medevac. So I was only in A403 for maybe a week, week and a half.
And you were a medic, right?
I was a medic, that's correct.
So we're not going to get a lot of detailed history from that week.
No, it was a command detonated mine. There were 5 of us, 4 of us got hit in medevac. One One guy didn't get hit. And it was so quick and I was there such a short time. I don't really remember too much. I know McKay was there. I don't know if you guys know McKay or not. I knew him for sure.
Well, talking about McKay, it's a little bit strange because I couldn't find him.
I've
And
got his phone number and address and everything.
if you would please pass it on to me and pass my contact information on to him. He was on
Okay.
a number of teams, but for some reason, he seems to be untraceable.
That's the McKay I know.
Was he a Canadian or something? Was he in Canada?
Yes, he's Canadian. He lives up on Cape Breton Island.
Okay, that's why he doesn't show up, because he's not using his U.S. Social Security number.
Probably not. Yep.
And that's why when I do searches for him, they say records found to that number. I know what his social is. So
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you got that information because I wish I had it a few days ago.
Well, I can get a hold of him and get in contact with you.
All right. Let me swing over here to, no, not this one. All right. So you were out on an operation in January of 70.
That's correct. January the 27th and 28th. Yeah.
And let's see if this is it. This was 2nd Battalion. Am I sharing the screen now?
Yeah, I see you
Map is
talking.
still up.
Yeah. Mhm.
Seeing Operation Seas?
You can't tell.
Yeah, I
map is
think
still up.
Okay.
I
you
think
still
it
got-
was C's. I'm
still
not
got
sure.
you still got the map. Let me do this again here. Share. Okay. This is the after action report for Operation Seas. Now they're calling it the 2nd Battalion, but I don't think so. This is Mukwa.
Yeah, I was definitely in Mukwa. I know that for sure. Yeah.
Then okay, and that probably was the operation. I don't see your listing here.
Yeah, if you go down further, you'll see the contact. There's no names.
2 USF WIA.
Yep. And there was two indigenous also, Curly, and the point man we nicknamed him Curly. He
Curly
got hit
Lion.
really bad. Yeah. And
Curly
was a-
Lion.
he was an
Swamp Fox?
indigenous troop. He was a Coochie. He fought for the NBA for a while, and then we paid him more money, so he fought for us.
Yeah, Curly Lyons is somewhere in Louisiana, and he doesn't answer his telephone. But as far as
Yeah,
Call
it
sign
wa-
on the radio was the Swamp Fox.
This was a indigenous troop. It was a Chinese mercenary, and he was our point man. He got hit pretty bad, so I don't know whether he survived or not.
okay, now John, you were there all the way to the end of the of 403. You were there when it closed it down.
No, I came back right before they were in the process of closing it down, but I was on Nui Tibet
Okay.
and out of Chilang.
Yeah. That was an operation with third company. Third company.
Yeah. At that time, they called it 51st Company.
That may well be.
And they were they were a mixture of Cambodian and some Vietnamese thrown in there. And the other two companies were basically Cambodian. Totally.
Let's see. Yeah, that they seem to have different numbering systems, just even from one camp to another.
Yeah, when I was at Chau, it was like first company and second company. Then when we went to Muckwa and we became the second battalion, it was like the 241, the 242 company. But I don't remember that at Chau. It was just the first company and the second company. And actually it was platoons. And we want a company, just put 4 platoons together. And then when we went to Muckwa, it became second battalion and the 41st company, the 42nd company. I don't really remember that too well, the numbering of the companies, or even that it applied to us. You know, when I was in the 2 Corps Mike Force, it was etched in stone. You know, the 4th Battalion, the 241, the 242, the 243 company. That was etched in stone. But at Chau or Muckwa, it was it was just the troops. Take a platoon out, take 2 platoons out, take 3 platoons out. Yeah, anyway.
Terry, do you have any insights to that? The numbering systems?
No, I don't. I don't remember what our company was called, what the number was at 403. I do remember we had LLDB though. I got there, I believe, in July of 69, and I was there through February 70. And my recollection is we had LLDB that the CIDG did not like at all. And we might have lost 1 or 2 of them on different operations. That good thing we didn't have forensics for checking the bullet locations, which direction they came from. But I don't remember anything other than the company, the 403 company. I don't remember the designation. I do have one note, Steve, when you put up that after action report, there was a color symbol up in the upper right corner. My recollection is that was the patch that the Mike Force, the 4th Corps Mike Force wore.
That's
And
the purpose of it, yeah.
we had camouflage patches and we had the full color. And don't ask me to explain how, but to this day, I still have a box of those patches, the color patches. And if anybody wants one, when I get back to Florida next month, I'd be happy to send them out there to you, because I don't know what I'm going to do with this box of patches.
Don't rush.
I'll take one.
Don't rush to be very generous. Those patches are probably worth more than you got paid for the whole year in Vietnam.
You're kidding me.
No, the knife you got. And when I came in the group, the sergeant major said, go to the tailor shop and get your beret embroidered. Okay. I've been offered $1,500 for the knife and over $1,000 for the beret.
Wow.
Now, just a beret by itself is not worth $1,000, but it's the embroidery that the sergeant major said, do it.
You know, when I was in the 2 Corps Mike Force, we had the tailor downtown make us a beret liner with the 2 Corps Mike Force patch, but I never sewed it in. And at an SFA, what's his name? The guy that collects everything, Special Forces.
Jason Hardy.
Huh? Hardy, yeah, Hardy. Well, I was at his table. We were looking at the berets, and I told him, I have a beret liner that was never sewed in. It's pristine. It's, you know, really well done. He offered me $400, but I didn't want to sell it. But then I thought, well, that damn thing's been sitting in the Foot Locker for 40 years. He said, I'll give you $400 for it, and you give the money to the Mountain Yard Fund. And I said, okay. So I mailed it to him. Well, he gave me the $400 up front, and I mailed it to him. and he brings it to the different SFA reunions to show it off. Yeah, he gave me $400 unseen, only from what I told him.
If Terry, if you want, contact me. I'll give you his phone number. He'll tell you the value of those patches
Okay,
because they really are. And Jason makes the market. Jason is the authority on where stuff came from. When he buys it, he got it from Randy, and he says, "This I got from Randy, and we know it's real."
Yeah, he took a picture of me.
So
you guys remember the Special Forces magazines that they used to publish?
that comes up here next.
Okay, well, all I have left from that is a picture of Linda Carter as Wonder Woman. She was on the inside back cover of one episode from 1969. And how many guys fell in love with Linda Carter as Wonder Woman back then? I'll tell you.
You know, Steve, I bought those off you. There's about 7 or 8, 6, 7 books. It made my
5 books. 5
Yeah.
books.
it made my suitcase real heavy going home. But I bought the whole set off you.
Well, the whole set is 5 books,
Yeah, I have it.
and these are all the magazines, 52 magazines from Vietnam, and it's indexed in great detail. And if it was Linda Carter in there, her name was not on the picture because I'm not seeing it in here. Obviously, I will check all the back issues of 69.
If you can't find it, you let me know. I'll take a picture and send it to you because all I have is the back cover of Linda Carter posing as Wonder Woman.
Well, C4.
Yeah, I bought those off you. And like I said, it made my suitcase real heavy going home.
Yeah, they're heavy.
When you buy it from me, I'll mail it to you. So it's on my website, but I don't know how many I'm gonna have because I go through I gotta go to the warehouse and see what we've got. Now, there is somebody. I don't think that's Linda Carter though. There's no name on it.
No,
No,
that's not Wonder Woman.
but she wasn't posed as Wonder Woman, was she?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And the red, white, and blue, and you know,
On the Green Beret magazines?
yeah, back cover. All I have is the back cover. And as I recall, Maggie Ray used to come by, and Martha Ray used to come out there, and she was in a couple of those magazines too. I played cards with her one night.
I had signed copies of the magazine with her.
That's it. Ruben, that's the one. That's the patch. I
Yep.
got a whole box of those.
Which one?
The blue one, upper right corner.
Okay, I just have one that I kept, you know. There's some guys from the 4th Corps, my force, that wore the skull and crossbones, but that's 3 Corps actually.
No, that was the early 4 Corps, Mike, and a lot of people sort of a locally designed, a locally used patch. Both 4 Corps and 3 Corps used it.
The skull and crossbones?
That then Group came out with the color blue patch,
Yeah.
and that became standard. But that became really Mike Force and 4 Corps. 2 Corps had its own patch, which was spectacular, and I Corps did one by itself. Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Do
go.
you remember the patch we used to wear on this side? I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yes. I said,
Fuck communism.
they made us
Haven't
take
seen
those
that in a
off.
while.
I keep it just for Halloween costumes.
Well, we
Hey,
got the guy who's got an email, Sat Kong. So I guess he holds a grudge a long time.
Yeah.
You know, the tiger with the parachute, that was for the troops.
That
Yeah.
that was CIDG patch. Well,
Yeah.
no, that was for the troops.
That was for the troops. My
Without the parachute, that was the CIDG patch.
Yeah. Well, they sent us, if it was one, if not two bolts of that patch, that material. So the Americans, we cut a bunch out of a big piece to make a shirt, you know. The troops didn't care for it. They didn't want it. But I don't know what happened became of that. A lot of us cut like a big piece, enough to make a shirt, a party shirt, you know. Never did.
Well, what I did was I put my patch and my knife, my beret and my knife away in a safe place. But I put a note attached to my will to tell my kids, don't sell this at a garage sale. And I gave them Jason's address. Because, you know, I don't need the money. I'd rather have the beret and the knife right now. But after I'm gone, it doesn't have any meaning to anybody else.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I gave my Randall to my daughter and her husband.
well, you remind them, however, about Jason Hardy, because if they ever get rid of it,
I think that's something to keep in the family. It has my name on it. You know,
yeah,
when I ordered it, I put my name on it. But they hunt, both my daughter and her husband, and they already skinned a deer with it. You see, he said it's kind of big to use, but they did it. So I thought to myself, well, that knife sat in the Foot Locker for 40 years, and I only wore it once or twice in Vietnam. It's just too big. But at least it's doing something now.
well, my wife used it to dig up banana trees one time in Malaysia, and chop the tip of it off, but that didn't bother Jason at all.
Is that right?
So, as I said, as long as you got somebody who has an interest in it, then you should keep it. But they should also know that it's a very valuable item.
Yeah.
That if they do want to get rid of it, they shouldn't let it go cheaply.
He says in his home, he has a very big room, and it's like a museum. So I asked him, "Are you wealthy that he's handing out this kind of money?" You know, he said, "No, I've done well in business." And he also said that at a certain point in his will or whatever, it goes to someone to continue on with the legacy. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
That
that's
would
what
be nice.
that's what I've done. I have a whole process set up. So when I'm gone, there's people out there who are the trustees, and I have nominated somebody to take the job. He gets the job. Trustees make sure it happens. If he doesn't take the job, he doesn't do the job, they remove him and they put somebody else in his place.
Interesting.
So I had a friend who helped me out. He copied 9,000 general orders in the National Archives for fifth group. So I had everybody's general orders. And a bit later, I trust it was not as a result of his standing over the copy machine in the archives. He went off and died. He had no family, no will, no kids. And he was the expert on distinguished service crosses for Vietnam, Korea, and World War II. And his entire holdings disappeared into the hands of all the lawyers who fought over his estate. And it took us years to get the paperwork back. What we wanted was the lists that he'd made up. You know, they kept the medals themselves that he had collected, but we wanted the list of who got the awards. And we finally got that recovered. But I decided at that point I was not going to let that happen to me. You have to have specific instructions on things that are important. And
I don't have too many artifacts from Vietnam. Very few, in fact. Yeah. I had a Buddha rag that the troops gave me. It was like a large white handkerchief, and it had all these inscriptions on it. And in Thailand, I was talking with the Thai drivers for the 46 company, and I told them about it. So the next day I brought it in, and they looked at it and they said, "Boy, this is powerful stuff." I don't know what became of it though. It moving around, it disappeared. But they said it was powerful stuff. Well, I guess you guys remember the Cambos would put the Buddha in their mouth. And 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 then you know, a lot of them spoke a little English. So in a contact, you know, you're giving orders, but I wouldn't be able to understand what they were saying, you see. So I said, take that damn thing out of your mouth. But they wouldn't do it. And then if one of them got killed with the Buddha, I'd say, well, what happened? He was such a powerful Buddha. He says, oh, he did something to offend Buddha. So that's why he died. But
We
yeah,
had a similar incident at Chau in 66, 67. The Vietnamese started harassing a Cambodian kid about 18 years old, and they challenged him that the handkerchief that you're talking about, to hold it in front of him, and they would shoot to see if the bullet would not kill him, and the bullet killed him. And I had one of those little ivory Buddhas, and when somebody broke into my house in 1986, they stole the Buddha, they stole the knife that Stephen was talking about that I had. Rocky Lewis had gotten it for us when we were down in Chau. Rocky was the radio operator when I was there. I don't know if he was still there, Mateo, when you got there. And they killed the kid because he believed, and he stood there and they shot at him with a carabine and killed the little guy.
yeah.
By
So
the way, this was the one later on for Mud Lake, and what they used to be Blue Light and became the Special Operations. And that's the logo on.
You know, most of the time when I deal with A camp, I get people who are telling me stories about the cooks and what they ate and all the pets that they had. But on these yesterday and today, for Mike forces, I didn't hear any of that. Is you guys didn't have any pets, or the cooks were really lousy?
We had a dog, I remember, out of Chilang, and we named it Damn It. We used to say, come here, damn it. And when I went home between tours, I ended up a compassionate reassignment living Southern California. My mother heard that story and she thought it was so funny then she went out and got a dog and named it Damn It. So she'd be out walking the dog and she'd yell, come here, damn it. And the neighbors always shook their head and thought she was getting senile. A little mutt we had in Chilang, it was Damn It the dog.
We had one guy who had an otter.
our dog at Chau was named Dipshit. And it moved to Muckwa with us. And about after a month or two, they found it on the runway with like a big stake through the body. The troops had killed it. I guess they didn't like it.
Most of the time, the dogs ended up getting eaten.
Huh?
And they were probably going to roast him.
They couldn't find a pig to roast. They had the dog.
Well, Dipshit was at Chau with us. And at Chau, we had like a very small inner perimeter. And the dog would stay there with us. And if a Cambo tried to come in, particularly at night, he'd growl at him, you see. He didn't like the Cambos. And then when it moved to when it moved to Buckwa with us, for about a week or two, we lived in a little RFPF camp at the end of the runway while the team at the camp moved out. But every night, the dog, Dipshit, would go back and sleep in the big camp and then come out to us in the morning. It didn't like the indigenous people for whatever reason, but they killed it. Yeah.
John, tell us a little bit more about life in Canto. John Dunphy.
Oh, okay. That we were hit the first day I was in the Mike Force I was a radio operator, and I was going over there to work their radio for Hayakawa, Hacky Yacky.
Yeah, I remember how I caught him.
And he was the one that killed that dog of the cook there at B40. The cook, Hacky Yacky said, I need to eat more rice. And he said, if you don't cook more rice, I'm going to kill that dog and eat the dog. And he did. He cooked it outside the mess hall. But anyway, it was interesting. It was an
He
interesting.
did that. He did that at A404 too.
Who,
He had some puppies and he killed them.
who killed that dog? Was it the radio operator?
Hacky, yeah, he was an E7 or E8.
Hey,
E7?
I sort of remember that story, but you're saying that story happened when?
I think you're talking about Ikehara.
Ikehara, yeah.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was the story. And then he cooked it, and some of the guys ate it, but they
Yeah.
didn't know what it was.
That's a good one.
Or Hayakawa.
Yeah, Hayakawa, he was the radio operator, senior
Yeah.
operator there and all.
Mhm.
And
B40.
Ikehara was always being blamed for dog eating and stuff like and cooking dogs and stuff like that.
That first night in the Mike Force, when I went from the C team over, they put me in a room with Hayakawa, and the base was hit. The airport across the way was hit, and B40. And I rolled out of bed, and he said, we got to get to the comm shack because the TOC, everything goes from there. And when we got to the door, we opened the door, and there were tracers going in and out and everywhere. And he looks at me, and I had left my web gear and my weapon on my bunk. And he goes, maybe you better go back and get that. That might come in handy tonight yet. Oh, okay. Just a stupid rookie mistake, huh? And then a mortar round went through the latrine, and it knocked Scarface Morgan off his throne in the shitter. And when he was in the talk, he was sitting there, and Major Boggs walks in and goes, who's bleeding in my TOC? And he looked at Scarface and he goes, Scarface, are you hit? No, I don't want to talk about it, sir. And he didn't want to talk about it because he said he hadn't completed the paperwork before he was blown off the can. So anyway, a sense of humor. But he was colorful, Scarface. But that was the first night in the Mike Force, and then Cannon was killed at the boat site on an operation with the Navy, and so I left B40 to go to A404, the airboats.
Oh, you were in the airboats. Yeah. Cool.
When you guys were at at Canto, was Gary Dollar there?
Gary who?
Gary Dollar. Like
I
a dollar bill. He was
Yeah, I
a
remember that name.
he was a toe child. Then when we split, he went to Canto. Boy, he could make me laugh. But anyway, I hung around with him a lot at Toe Chow. But then again, he probably would have left sometime in '68 from Canto.
Okay.
Was Matalik there,
Yeah,
Lieutenant?
yeah.
Huh? He was at Toe Chow, but then he went to Canto too, I think.
Yeah, I was there. Oh, like I was telling him, we moved over a little better than 7 months, I think it is, from Toshao. And when I moved into Big 40, B40, and then we went ahead and formed up 43 there. Mobile Guerrilla Force, or Mobile Strike Force.
Did you hang around a lot with Pinocchio?
Yeah. Well, George left. I thought he went to Makwa, my understanding anyway.
No, he didn't go to Muckwa. No,
Him and one as my understanding anyway, because we had an operation on Long Bay, and I thought he was going to come with us, you know, but the team sergeant Galen, I don't know if you remember Galen Kittleson.
who?
Kittleson.
Oh, yeah, Kittleson. He came to
Yeah.
Muckwa. He came to Muckwa.
He didn't go. He didn't go. He didn't go, and we had different faces over there, and I don't remember seeing him down there.
I kept in touch with Kittleson up to the point where he died, when he died. He called me and told me about his book, you know. But yeah, I would call him he'd call me about once a year. We talk.
Oh, I see.
He lived
Yeah,
in-
I missed him. Like I was saying earlier, you know, we had some good bunch of mature guys over there.
yeah.
That, yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Name of the book is Raider. About Kittleson.
And Gene Shepard was there too. You remember Gene Shepard, Ruben?
Kittleson came to Muckwa. I went out with him once or twice, and then he left. He left in the spring of '68. He went home.
Kittleson was after Shepard, and before Shepard, I think Glenn Lane was there for a little bit of time.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know if something's happened to Glenn. I saw him last year at SOAR.
Cool.
Yeah, he looks fine, but he's getting up there in age. So when he didn't answer the phone, I don't know what happened. I couldn't find him yet.
Who was that?
Glenn Lane.
Who?
Glenn Lane. L-A-N-E.
Was he one of the? He was the team sergeant, wasn't he?
He was his first team sergeant. Yeah.
Yeah. Kittleson was like the team sergeant of the whole camp. I know Lane was there, but he wasn't very visible. Lane.
He got wounded fairly early on, and Shepard came in, took his job.
And Lane
Yeah,
never went to the field.
He got hit in New Ecuador.
Yeah, Lane never went to the field. He was low key. If you wanted something, you went to Kittleson, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I ran across him in Okinawa when I was in the first group. He was a sergeant major, first group over there at that time. That's last time I saw him.
He retired as the 7th group sergeant major. Yeah.
Look, why don't we go around here, take 2 minutes, tell me what happened to you after 403. Start out with Ruben.
After 403, let me see if I can remember correctly. I went back to the States and I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, where I became a basic training company commander. From there, I went back to the 8th Special Forces in Panama, went to Ranger School when I was 35 years old, graduated from the Ranger course, and from there, I went to finish my education at Florida Southern College. But between there, I went to Fort Knox for the advanced course. I was infantry, but I went to Fort Knox for the Armor Advanced course. From the Armor Advanced course, I went back to Panama again. I did 3 tours in Panama, then came back and went to Fort Benning, where I was assigned to the Ranger camp at Fort Rudder in Eglin Air Force Base. I was there for about 2 years, and then I went back to SF, and that's when I went and became the XO of the 2nd Battalion of the 5th Special Force under Colonel McClure. During that time is when I went out to Mott Lake and took over. The team sergeant at that time was Sergeant Stevens. He was about to retire. He retired. I stayed there till 1980 when I retired on April the 1st. After that, I decided I didn't want to work for anybody anymore, and I went to law school in Michigan. Graduated from law school and came down to Florida, started practicing law down here, predominantly in the federal courts. That's about it.
Mateo? Mateo? Why don't you tell your bio?
I don't think he's hearing you. Steven, just 1 second. I don't know if you're interested in this picture or not. The guy in the middle is Hendricks. The guy on the right, as you're seeing him, is B.T. Collins. And then that's me there with a beret. That was at Chau in 1966.
I have a website, which is called Special Forces Books. And let's go up to here. Share. Okay, specialforcesphotos.com. Okay. You come in here and you sign in. You sign in with your whole name. This guy is a bot, and he's going to dump out. This guy's going to have to change his name because I can't keep him in here. But when you come in here, there are albums for every camp in Vietnam. Once you're approved, you can go ahead and put pictures in any album that you want.
Okay.
And you do it yourself. You can put in a picture and somebody else come by and say, wait a minute, I'm the third guy from the left. And he can add to the caption you put in there. So I recommend everybody sign up for this, but sign up with your whole name. Otherwise, I'm going to mistake you for a bot and throw you out.
Why can't I talk?
I'm talking to the guy, Mom.
I've been calling you and calling you. Come outside.
hear you. I can't come out.
Okay, we'll skip ahead. Why don't we go with Charles? You can tell us what happened to you after you got finished up in Vietnam.
Well, I went from 403 to 404, and I was there till I think November of 70. Then I went back to the States and married. I was married already before I went to Vietnam, and started working as a carpenter for 13 years. And then I started my own millwork firm, making windows and doors and flooring. Did that, I guess, close to 40 years. And my son's taking over the business now, and I'm starting to enjoy things a little bit.
So that's what millwork is.
Yeah, architectural millwork. I still do all the curved crown moldings and bent jambs and things like that. So I still stay in it a little bit.
Okay. Mateo,
Yes, I'm here.
why don't you tell us your history?
When I left 403 and went to Canto B40, I left out of there. I went back to Fort Devens, Massachusetts. I formed up a tent group over there in preparation for the original coming back from Beto. And I stayed there for about maybe a couple of years. And then I got a return orders to go back to Vietnam. And I was in FOB2 out of Khartoum. And I stayed there after I finished up. Evidently, the general didn't want all the old SF guys to stay in SF. There at that time, I think Pistol Pete was the general at John F. Kennedy Center, and he sent 6 or 7 of us to Fort Lewis, Washington, to work out our basic training unit. And somehow, some general from I think his name was Larson out of San Francisco 6th Army area then. found out that we all was SF guys, and what we were doing over there, they said the government can't waste no money and put you people over there because they spent enough money on you guys. So he rearranged it so that orders would get for us where we wanted to go. At that time, he told us that the only thing was available was the 46th company and the first group. And because I have a family, I told me I'll go to the first. So come find out, I went there, and I stayed in the first group for until they disbanded. I think about a couple of years after that, and I got selected to go to Taiwan Residence Detachment, and come to find out, I went there when Vasquez was a team sergeant over there, and when I went there, for one day, I had to get all my Chinese visas and all that stuff. And he turned around and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, I'm getting assigned here." He said, "No, I'm going to send you back to the first group because some lieutenant general from the Air Force, they want SF to be there on Taiwan." So I just packed my bag and stayed there in the first group. And then I sat around in the first group because by that time, a lot of people was moving out from the first and headed out in all sort of directions. And when I told the personnel there at Sukaran, they turned around and said, "We got to find your assignment." They said, "How about Detachment A, Berlin, right?" And I looked at him, I said, "Well, can I bring my family?" He said, "No, I'll tell you what we'll do though. We'll send you back to Fort Devon. And then after that, you can get to Berlin and on TDY and stuff like that." Well, my interest wasn't in Berlin. I want to make sure that my family could, come along and stuff like that. Well, I stayed there at Devon's for maybe about 2 years. Then I got picked up for go to Defense Language Institute at Monterey for Spanish. And come to find out after we finished there, I ended up going over to the 8th group. So I drove all the way across country with 2 or 3 more other guys from the different team. And we headed out that way. And when I got to Panama, I tried to get settled in and everything. At that time, a third of the 7 was there, see. And I met a whole bunch of guys from the first that got assigned there too, and we all worked together, and I stayed there. And upon finishing, I stayed there about 5 years altogether. The duty was excellent there in Panama, and I came back, and on my way back, I was en route to Defense Language Institute again to be attending the German language school at Monterey. So I drove across country with my family and headed out that way. And when we got out there, I live out there in Monterey, and I was attending about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe close to, 2 or 3 weeks. I was attending German language. Then all of a sudden I got a message saying that you're going to be assigned to transfer. Well, I was actually assigned to, after completion of German language, to Heidelberg to be the sergeant major over there for headquarters detachment Europe and the Pentagon. See? And I was supposed to be the intermediary, I guess, for the special forces there at Bateau, what was left behind, and then close out. But at last minute, I was told, "You're not going to go there, that you're going to go up to an RCC assignment." And I asked them if I could go to Hawaii at the University of Hawaii. They turned around and told me, "No, Bob Silva was over there." So I said, okay. I didn't know he was retiring, but I ended up either was going to University of Wyoming or Youngstown State out in Ohio. See, so I chose Youngstown because the winter wasn't that good in Wyoming for me anyway. So when I got out there, I stayed there, and then I finished up about 3 or 4 years at military science at there at Youngstown, and also attended college while I was there. And then I got a message saying that you're going to go to the first group at the Sergeant Major over there. And then I got a message from the center, John F. Kennedy Center, from the Sergeant Major over there to come on TUY. He wanted to talk to me down there. When I ended up going down there to see him, he turned around and told me that I wasn't going to go to the first group. He wanted me to take over the second battalion out of Florida at MacDill. The 7th group was moving down there, and I told him, well, I had already set in because DA told me I was going to go over there to the first group, and I don't know whether it was Fort Lewis or to Okinawa. And next thing I know, I ended up going back to this time to Fort Lewis, and I finished up my tour there and headed back to Hawaii. And when I headed and retired, other than that, that was basically my end of my career as far as active duty and stuff like that. That's about it.
Well, for your information, first group is having a reunion in Mobile next week, starting on about the 11th, I think it is, 11th through the 15th. It's a long way away from Hawaii. I was going to go, but the Boomtown Casino in Biloxi doesn't serve all you can eat shrimp anymore, or crab anymore. So I'm passing that up. But I will probably have a Zoom connection to the convention if they work that out for me.
I see.
But if you know, the first group has had a lot of very interesting reunions. I've never served first group, but I've been to some of their conventions, and it's a very tight group of people. And in fact, one of the last conventions I attended, they had a new.
But right now, you know, in Hawaii, especially the Special Forces Association here, they're doing a lot of the Zoom work yet. They're still under the 2-year pandemic of COVID-19. So as far as getting together, there's very few. And other than that, they only can catch each other by Zooming in on every time they have a meeting, which is the first Sunday of every month. Other than that, guys were coming and going, and then they actually disbanded the association out of the Big Island, and then they're trying to put that group and the one in Honolulu together and form up that way.
Well, with Zoom, you can do it. You're here. I'm in Texas, and you're in Hawaii, and Ruben's in Florida. So we're covered up the whole breadth of the U.S. in the Zoom meeting without any problem. But I was about to tell you that I went to a first group reunion a couple of years ago, and they had a new XO named Barker. And his son had been in the first group. No, his father had been in the first group. And during our time. So he gets invited out to the first group reunion. His father's there, and a lot of people from the older times. And I'm watching this going on. And all these Okinawan women that married first group people, they knew the XO of the group when he was a little baby. And they said, oh, you know, I remember you. I did. It was not at all what would be expected. Why don't you come on with your background information? Randy Suzani?
Oh, yeah. Well, from 403, when we split, I went to 402. And then I put an ITT in for the 46 company in Thailand, and I got it. I went over to the 46. After that year, the ITT to go back to Vietnam, and I did. And I spent a year with the 2 Corps Mike Force. Then I went back to Thailand with the 46. So I just kept bouncing back and forth for 6 years. But then I couldn't extend over there anymore. The Army said no more. So I went to JFK Center and I worked in the G3. And then from there, I went to JCRC in Thailand. So I was back in Thailand. And then when they closed out, I put in for the 2nd Division in Korea because I wanted to stay in Asia. And they gave it to me. I went to the 2nd Division and I had to pay my dues for all the good assignments I ever had because that was a hard year. And then from there, I went to the 82nd. I always wanted to be a first sergeant in the 82nd. So I went to the 82nd, was there for a little over a year. Then I went to Minnesota and I got orders to be the advisor to the 1st of the 409th Infantry Reserve. And I was there for 2 years. I didn't care for that at all because I was single and, I wanted to do things. And then from there, I went to the 101st as the first sergeant. And then I made sergeant major and retired from the 101st. But I continued wearing the uniform I retired again with 20 years teaching high school ROTC. So I wore the uniform every year from 1960 to 2000. There was only 2 years in there that I wore it only part of the time. I also got married after I retired and we had a daughter. Now I don't do anything. Go to doctors. And that's it.
Terry?
Well, I had somewhat of an interesting time of it. I went in the Army at 18 and they sent me to OCS. So a month after I turned 19, became a 2nd lieutenant. And they sent me to Fort Bragg and I did the SFOC course, went to Vietnam, was at Nha Trang for a few months, and then I ended up at B40 and they sent me to 403. Got promoted to captain, sent me up to the B team. I was an assistant S3. My father was passing away, and so they gave me a compassionate reassignment to Southern California, where I was originally from. I was the chief pot officer, plans, operations, and training at Fort MacArthur, which is no longer an Army installation. I think they sold it off for condos. But very interesting year. Went back to Vietnam. The old 20, what is it, the 23rd Infantry? That was Callie's division. They dissolved it and we stayed over there in 1971 as the 196th Infantry Brigade. I was an infantry company commander. Then I became the battalion S3. Went back to Fort Benning for my 3rd tour there. The Army said I have to become educated, so they sent me to get an undergraduate degree, University of Nebraska. Then I ended up at Fort Monroe, Virginia, in G1 there, and went to Germany for a 6-year tour. Headquarters commandant of the 1st Infantry Division Forward. Then 7th Corps headquarters. I was the XO of the headquarters battalion. And back to Fort Benning, I was to Fort Riley, 1st Infantry Division. I was the chief G3 plans officer, and I retired. Didn't make lieutenant colonel, so they retired me at 20. That was 35 years ago, and moved back to California. In my 20 years in the Army, I moved 22 times in 20 years. No regrets. Enjoyed most of it. The worst thing about becoming a civilian is you had all those people out there with no one in charge. And retired, I spent 30 years as a property manager in Fresno, California. Retired 5 years ago, and I alternate between our home here and I'm in Lake Tahoe, Nevada right now. And I live in half the year in Lake Tahoe and the other half of the year in Delray Beach, Florida. My wife's father, a couple of sisters, and our youngest son is there. And our oldest boy just moved to Sarasota, Florida. So I got 4 grandchildren in Florida. Who'd have thunk? So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, on.
John, you're up.
Okay, after, well, when I went in the service, went to training group, jumped school, graduated with an 05B4S qualification for radio operator, and got sent to Vietnam right after training group. And of course, went through the C team and then the B team. And then there was a casualty at the boat site. So I went to the boat site as the radio operator. And that was an interesting tour at the boat site. That was good duty. And the enemy, we took it to the enemy every time we could. And it was really effective, the airboats were. And when one of the lieutenants, Lieutenant McKinney at the time, he left the boat site. He was just there for a couple months, and he went to 403. And he asked if I wanted to go. So I went. And when I had checked in, Sergeant Cross was the team sergeant. And I was to take over 51st Company. And when I checked in, I said, oh, that's really a good deal. They're running this company in the Mike Force. And so he threatened me with going to the 9th Infantry Division. So I straightened up, pulled my tour there, and extended. And then I ended up in the mountains down around Chilang on pretty tough operations. Got out, sent home, and I got orders to the 10th. Well, I'd served with a Cochrane at the boat site with him, and he was an engineer, and he said, oh, Bad Tools, Germany. Oh, the 10th. Oh, it's great. That's nothing but ski school. You'll love it. Well, the 10th had moved from Bad Tools to Fort Devens, which was an MP post. So when I got there, a lot of Mike Force people were there also. And we all had lots of money, and we were buying all hot cars, and the MPs were setting up roadblocks, and it was a disaster. So I got out and went to college, and of course I flunked out. I wasn't ready for it. I finally graduated from college and got married, and I was a general contractor till I was 50, and I decided that I'd had enough of that daily, so I became a hunting guide and raised horses. And it's been a good life, but I sure respect everybody that served in Special Forces. And it's been really an honor to talk with you guys today. And that's about it.
John, at one point, I think I have records here saying you had volunteered for CCC and they put you on the roster, but I think you corrected me to say, no, you stayed at 403. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to, when my tour in Vietnam was up, I went to the sergeant major group in the training and asked to stay and go back to the Mike Force, the A-432. And he said, son, I can't, he said, reassign you to the 9th Infantry. Yeah, right. That'll never work. So I came home and went to the 10th, which at Fort Devens, it was terrible duty. It was easy duty. There was nothing for us to do there. So Crash Whalen was the sergeant major, and he'd come out, we'd have the formations, and then he'd say, okay, all you guys, I trust you. Go out, do physical fitness, jog, swim, bicycle, fish, golf, tennis, whatever. Well, of course, we'd go down to Cappy's Tavern in Boston and drink beer all day and watch baseball on TV. And he finally got wind of all that stuff. And so it was just, it was a bad, not enough to keep us busy. And we were always used to action. Everybody was coming down, I guess, we were all Vietnam people. So anyway, that was about it.
Well, this has been an interesting session over here. I had about 30 people on the email list. I'm surprised a lot of them didn't show up. But as you all pointed out, there's a lot of doctor's appointments in this time of our life. And then there's a lot of people who just can't remember what day of the week it is.
And the ranks are thinning out.
Right. In any event, on the email that I sent you, inviting you to the Zoom session, all the other emails of the people I called on are listed, and most of them are valid emails. There's nothing stopping you from communicating directly to the people on that list, and there's nothing stopping you from hosting your own Zoom meeting. Zoom will let you host a meeting for free up to 40 minutes. And then you can just start another meeting after that. So I've got to run around and do some other things. I've been working on this project for about 8 months now. Finally, this week we'll finish up all the A camps in Vietnam. And hopefully over time, I'll get them edited and posted. I may end up just going ahead and posting the raw footage because this poor girl is buried. She got I-Corps done. There's 3 more corps and a lot more camps.
Are you going to do 2 corps eventually?
I did 2 corps. I did everything.
You did 2 corps?
I did not do the Mike Force in 2 corps.
Oh, okay.
I spent a lot of time doing 2 corps and I-Corps Mike Force, and I also did 3 and 4 corps Mike Forces on a CD-ROM and then Trang Mike Force. But the 4 corps is very unusual in that your battalions of the Mike Force basically were A camps, whereas in Pleiku Mike Force, you had a battalion in Khartoum and a battalion in Bambi-Tut. It was not really an A camp as such. So you guys got special treatment down here, and I had 6 Zoom meetings scheduled for the Mike Force and 4 corps, whereas 2 corps I didn't do that. But Randy, you got my CD-ROM on the 2 corps Mike Force.
Yeah, I do.
That's got a lot of stuff on it.
I don't know how to work it.
All you need to do is call me up and I'll walk you through it. Put it in your computer and I'll walk you through it. And it's really easy. Look, a long time ago, when I was just really getting started in this, there was a story in the news and the radio about somebody who was getting a divorce because he called his wife a cyber slut. She was having conversations on the internet with somebody, and they were talking about all kinds of things that he was not happy about. But anyway, finally the news came out that the person that she was talking to lived in Fayetteville. At that point, I decided the SF had discovered the internet, and I could then start to do things on CD-ROM that I would otherwise have committed to paper. And the first one I did was Project Delta, and that was an ebook before the term ebooks was invented. but I tried to keep it as simple as possible. But sometimes you don't ask the questions, you can't get the answers. So Randy, if you bought my CD-ROM and you haven't done anything with it, you should call me and ask me.
I've tried to use it a couple of times and I sort of stumbled through it. I have another CD of yours, I forget which one, but with the 2-core Mike Force CD, like I said, I just stumbled through it. No, I really don't know how to work it. I'm that way with anything that's computer.
Well, the point is that what happens is that the new CD-ROMs have auto boot processor. You put the CD-ROM in there, and then it loads itself up. This was done before that was even invented. So that presents a problem. But basically, what I've got here on the CD-ROMs, let me show you this.
Guys, I gotta take off. Been
Okay.
a pleasure to listen to you. Nice meeting you,
okay.
seeing you. And Steve, thank you very much for putting this on. I really appreciate it.
Take care.
You
Okay.
too. Thanks, guys.
Take
Right.
care of yourself.
On the CD-ROMs, the way I've set them up, and I think you're seeing a page right now, is wherever you see the home button, which is usually the patch, you click on it, and it takes you back to a table of contents. So at the table of contents, you can open up, go to Blackjack 42, for example, and you can go through here and read the operation. At the beginning and end of each section, you have that thing to jump back, and you have all these things to read. So it's really a very simple process.
But you know, in 4th Corps, when we would go out on operation, it wasn't like 402 alone or 403 alone. Seems like there was guys from each team that went to the field. Like when we did Blackjack operation, I think half the guys were 402, maybe the other half were 403. But I guess it's an after action report. Yeah, well.
Well, here it is. This is elements of 402 on this particular operation, and then the sequence of events.
Yeah, I think the one Blackjack I was on was 42 Alpha when we climbed New Ecoto at night. That was around September of 67.
Yeah, I may not have that one.
Put the names of the people that were on that operation.
Well,
Okay, you got 402, 403.
this one here. Is two companies of my course, but it doesn't tell me which companies they were.
Boy, 200 CIDG would have been just about the whole camp.
Well, this is New Jai at 67, but it's December of 67.
All right.
It's two Microforce companies,
Oh, okay.
okay? But they don't tell me what. When you come up to this is an operation to go into Mian and open that camp up. They had 41st, 42nd, 43rd companies from 401.
Yeah, down Fook.
And so they describe the operation here.
What operation was that?
This is the operation to open up 433 Mian
Oh,
in July of 67.
okay.
So
I went on the one to open up 416, A416 in January of 68.
okay, January.
I think
68.
we were just converting to Mike Force at the time. Marichek was our commander.
Here's 402, an operation called Version 2. Kittleson,
Yeah.
Cezanne right there.
What operation was that?
It was called Virgin 2. And it was secure the area at BDN High.
Oh, yeah, me then, A416. See,
Yeah.
I talked to Osner's son. He was killed in Iraq.
Yeah.
But I talked to Osner's son, email. And I told him, I says, you know, your father may have been out on that operation, but I don't remember him. And I just don't know.
Well,
Yeah, all of them I remember real well.
yeah, it's written there.
Half
Now,
of them are dead.
Oxner's not.
Huh?
Oxner's not. He was on the first program we did here earlier.
Okay, Robert Osner died.
No,
His
his
son.
son died.
Huh?
His son died, but he.
Yeah, his son.
Yeah.
His son died, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I called up Frank Morin, and he said, yeah, this is the wrong Frank Morin. I don't think so.
Well, Morin, I've talked to Morin, email. He's in Hawaii.
Well, then
Not
maybe
Hawaii,
the
Philippines.
okay, then this guy was the wrong Frank Morin.
Who?
The guy that I talked to in California was the wrong guy. I
Oh,
thought
yeah,
he,
no.
I thought he was
Morin-
lying to me.
Morin lives, but then he's got a son, I think.
The guy didn't say it was his son.
Yeah.
Boatwright is in Alaska, and he doesn't do computers.
Boatwright, he was the youngest of us.
Yeah.
I was only a staff sergeant, but I was 28 years old. Schultz was killed at CCN. And Thornburg became a pilot, Cobra pilot, flew back in 4th Corps, but he passed away a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And Gotzi's in your book, I think, of people that have passed.
Yeah. And I don't know about Richardson. I have to look him up here.
Boatwright was a nice kid and all. He was an engineer, but he was sort of very immature. Schultz was, we were pretty good friends. And Richardson, I remember just a little bit. Schultz and I spent the night under a poncho in the human forest. And the mosquitoes were beyond belief. Beyond belief. And our ass was in water because we didn't have dry land yet. The ground had maybe an inch or two of water, but we lay down in it, use our rucksacks to keep, upper body out of water. But the mosquitoes were beyond, and I'm not exaggerating, beyond belief. Yeah. Then he left us and went to CCN and was killed.
Well, Richardson is probably, he was out in New Orleans a while ago.
Richardson?
Yeah, but I haven't been able to reach him since then.
Richardson came to Chau toward the end. I don't remember where he went. Like, he didn't go to Muckwa. He might have gone to
I think he went to Delta.
Is that? But some reason I was thinking he went to MacV.
Delta.
Huh?
Delta, Project Delta. B-52.
Okay. Yeah, but it's funny about Osner because Osner was smaller than I am. And you think I would remember him. I do not remember him at all. At Chau on that operation.
Maybe he was hidden by the mosquitoes.
Huh?
Maybe he was hidden by the mosquitoes.
Well, we went in one company out of Chau and one company out of Don Fuc. And then within a day or two, we cleared the campgrounds where the camp was going to be. We had a couple of ambushes, but then the CIDG at A16 revolted and the team fired them all. And the two Mike Ford's company had to come back into the camp and provide security for the camp, in the camp, till they recruited more indids, you know. And we were close together in the camp, but I don't remember Ashna. And we went out on a lot of ambushes on the canals. And I don't remember him at all. I just don't remember him. But anyway, he was there, I guess. Strange. I remember Kittleson, Morange. You know, I remember, but I don't remember Ashna.
Well,
His, go ahead.
the reporting in 4 Corps, because you were spread out as much as you were, I was not able to find all the after action reports that I found for other Corps areas. A lot of after action reports just never survived or never came into a place that I could see it.
Yeah.
So I'm least happy about the 4 Corps Mike Force.
I tell you, another thing I remember, after that Nui Koto operation, the Blackjack 42 Alpha, I think it was, Kittleson, they made the after action report. And Kittleson asked me to record it on a tape recorder, see, on a cassette.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, I'll do that. But Kittleson checked back, and I don't know if it's coming through, but I have a New York accent. I don't know if it's coming in. But Kittleson said, forget about it. I'll get somebody else to do it. But they recorded, they read the after action report and put it on cassette. And I guess that was a requirement, I guess. I don't know.
I never heard that before.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was just maybe just blackjack operations or that particular one, but I remember I started doing it and I was reading the printed after action report. And like I say, Kittleson listened to it and he said, never mind, we'll get somebody else. So somebody else did do it. I guess it exists.
Now, I don't know. Ruben, do you remember anything about recording after action reports?
Never had anything like that, no.
Yep.
Maybe Kittleson did it for his book.
Before you sign off, Stephen, how can I get one of those CDs that you were describing?
On my website, all the CDs are there. SpecialForcesBooks.com. Have any problems, give me a call. I'll work it out.
I got 2 copies of your Green Berets reprints because I want to give one to each of my sons.
Mm-hmm.
But the CD I didn't know about, but I'll look it up.
Okay. Well, the Green Beret magazines are something that everybody really should have because it's like having a high school yearbook. You know.
Yeah, I got 2 sets of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think I'll, talk to other people and remember if they ever had a record the after action report on a tape. Maybe it was just blackjack operations. I don't know.
Well, it would be interesting because if it was official, that means there might be some record of it. There may be tapes in the archives that nobody's looked for because they just didn't know they were there.
I don't know who it was. I forget who it was. Because at Chau in the barracks, there's one little area that was like a little office. And that's where I sat and did it. And whoever replaced me would have done it there. And I don't remember who it was. Or even if it got done, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, I'll track that down a little bit more as I talk to people. It's an interesting possibility. If after action reports were recorded and they have reports that were not printed, I might have to use those to fill some holes.
In 2 Corps, I don't remember that at all. I don't remember after action reports in 2 Corps.
Oh, 2 Corps had tons of after action reports. I'm still missing some, but they just had an extraordinary amount. You got 6 battalions running around.
5.
And 5 battalions and a couple of recon companies.
A recon company.
And so they're submitting reports, and these guys are busy. You know, they go out on one operation, stand down for 3 days, and come back and go out again.
The year that I was there, our schedule was like a master training schedule, like you would see a master training schedule, and it showed each battalion So there was like 2 to 3 battalions in the field, one coming in, one going out, 2 or 3 in the field, overlapping, and it was 20 days out and 5 days in for the whole year. The only thing that interrupted that was the sieges, because we had the siege of we had the siege of Ben Het, Bu Prang, Dak Siang, and Dak Pek. So we had a lot of casualties. So we might not make the whole 20 days. But in between, we might have contacts, but we didn't have a lot of casualties. It was 20 out, 5 in, 20 out, 5 in. But Dak Siang, we had just come in on stand down, and the camp was attacked on April 1st. And they alerted us right away. We went back out like on the 2nd or the 3rd. We were back at the Dak Siang. But that was the schedule, 20 out, 5 in. In 4th Corps, it was erratic. You might be out for a week, might be out. A week was about average, I think. There's another Mike Force guy. I won't say his name because I think he's bullshitting. He says that when he was at Don Fook, and it was after like maybe the 68, 69, 1968, 69 period, they would go out for 30 days and a week in. And I questioned him one time, and he says, yeah, that was the schedule. He went on 3 30-day operations. I never heard of an operation in the Mike Force in 4th Corps for 30 days.
Well, that's what the blackjack operation was supposed to be, but that was not in 69. That time blackjack was gone. So in 69,
you had the Nui Kodo operation.
Say again.
You had the Nui Kodo operation. It was in 67 in about.
Well, here's one which is pretty good as a report.
What year was that?
This is 69.
Oh,
March,
no.
April 69.
That was the big fight. That was the big one.
Big one, yeah. And there's a lot of information in here. As you can see, all the names of people, awards that were given, who did what to who. And then somewhere along the line, I have pictures. I mean, look, take this down. There's 300 pages on this Nui Kodo operation.
Yeah, that was all of the 4th Corps Mike Force and the Trang Mike Force.
Yeah, and then there's a section on the CD-ROM here. The only person who sent me pictures was Billy Boggs, and he sent me some good stuff that you guys are all going to remember that. His notations, and then pictures.
There's the knoll. When on our operation, we climbed it at night, run around the top, came down, overran the village of Olam, and then came around, and we were going to attack the knoll. But now we had about 100 men. They kicked our ass and chased us. Because 2 years later it would take all of the Mike Force from 4th Corps, all the Mike Force from the Trang, air, artillery, heavy weapons. But we tried to take the knoll with 100 men, and they just chased us out fast. I remember that name, Boggs.
Billy Boggs, yeah.
But I didn't know him. He was the B team commander, right?
He was the XO.
Okay.
And I think at one point he became the B team commander. And he had an A team on an earlier trip.
I just remember the name. I don't think I ever saw him, or even if he was there when I was there.
Well, he showed up at conventions until he died about a decade ago.
Everybody dies.
Well, fortunately,
Everybody
he's
dies
out there.
I was surprised yesterday when you told me that Simpson was dead and Titsworth. I had heard Titsworth was dead, but I knew Simpson was in bad health.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get notified or research everybody that dies, or you just come across some, or
Well, I certainly get the drop, and Bonnie Cooper
yeah.
sends me information. Other people send me information on who died, but when I did this, I had to look first. I'll look to find the person. If I have any previous contact, I'll work with that. If I had a previous contact, I can usually find something that will lead. If you were in this town, 5 years ago, I'll find you wherever you move to. If I don't have anything on you, I'll go look for an obituary. And there's a lot of people, however, with the same names. But if the obituary is good, it will have it will say he served in special forces in Vietnam.
You know who just died recently within the last couple of days? Michael Taylor.
Yeah.
I would see pictures of him. SFA. He was very active with the MIA, and I would see pictures of him often on Facebook.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's dead. It's like some guys have a long illness. I don't know. Maybe he had a heart attack or something. But yeah, he died 2-3 days ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. All right. In doing 4 Corps. All right. I will come down here, share the screen.
Hey, Steve, I've got McKay's phone number if you want that.
Okay. Hold on a minute here while I
Yeah.
figure out what this is doing here. No, this is not what I want. Okay, where is this? Okay, stop share. Stop share and share. There it is. Okay, when I started to do 4 Corps, I started collecting all the obituaries that I found. So as I'm going from camp to camp, that's all obituaries that I found on 4 Corps. That's a lot of obituaries.
Those are obituaries, huh?
And those are people we didn't know were dead already. So these are new obituaries. They may have been a long time ago, but they were not known to most people. So
I'm not active in my chapter anymore. They pissed me off. So I'm a member at large. But if I die, I don't know if anybody's going to know.
There ain't no if, when.
Yeah.
that is a problem. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
We had a woman in the chapter who we designated as the secretary for obituaries, and everybody was supposed to send her their own obituary. Turns out she died before anybody else did.
Yeah.
But I was the only person apparently that gave her an obituary. So that doesn't work very well unless you do it. You don't have it. But
I made a big long laundry list of telephone numbers. It's with my will that my daughter has to call people. Social Security, my retirement, this, that. Yeah. And one of them was the president of the chapter I belong to. I'm still friends with him. To notify him, and he would get it in the drop, you see. Mm-hmm. He would put it in the drop. And as far as my obituary, on the SF list, you write up, they ask all these questions. I said, well, take my obituary from that, units I was assigned to and this and that. But yeah, and the guy that she's got to call is still alive.
Well,
If he died- because, I'm not active in Special Forces circles. Well,
we're all getting to the point where we're less active than we were before. And Special Forces hasn't been all that active either after COVID-19.
well, I used to make the reunions fairly often. I haven't gone in a couple of years. Well, what with COVID, and I just don't feel like traveling anymore.
Well, but we certainly had a bunch of very interesting characters in SF, but not only in Vietnam, but post-Vietnam. This guy over here,
Oh, no, that name doesn't ring a bell.
all right. Well, where the hell is it? Well, that didn't do any good. Well, he escaped from Poland or something, and because of some sickness, they had to leave him in Germany. His parents had to leave him in Germany or Netherlands or somewhere. He finally got to the United States, joined the army, joined Special Forces, went to Vietnam, got out of that. Apparently became some kind of a scientist because he was deeply involved with all those explorer programs where they had these landers going on to Mars and everywhere else. And I mean, he was in charge of that shit. So, and he wrote some fiction books, non-fiction books about his experience in Vietnam. But he also wrote some technical books about, moonlanders and shit like that.
Was that Beer Bomb?
No, that's not Beer Bomb. That was this guy, Dergurky.
Beer Bomb one time told me, because I was with him when he got shot, and we got him out, we got him medevaced, and I ran into him at B40 Mike Force after he'd been to Japan and came back. And I said, well, Captain Beer Bomb, what do you think of this war? And he said, John, this isn't a war. Fighting the Russians with Molotov cocktails in Hungary, that was a war.
Well,
So
we have a lot of people with a lot of different experiences. And what I'm hoping to do shortly is I'm be setting up 2 more websites. One of them is I have a warehouse full of Vietnamese language books. The company in Houston that was printing them went out of business, 20 years ago, and some Chinese guy ended up with them. And then I got in touch with the Chinese guy, and he said, "What can I do about these books?" I said, "What do you want for them?" I took the whole lot and put them in a warehouse. Can't read them, but there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But the other website is I'm going to set up an Amazon affiliate website. So if you go up there and you see a book you want to read, and I'll have a listing of books from Special Forces only, and you click on it, you go to Amazon, you buy the book. I get 4% royalty on it, which might keep the website operating long after I'm gone. 4% is not much, but there's so many books out there that nobody knows about that I think it's important for me to try to put up a list where people can see them all.
Do you know Jim Bolin?
Yeah,
He was with B-57, one of those SOG.
yeah. B-56 Omega.
Okay, Omega. I went to training group with him. We were pretty good friends, hung out. He put out a book. He sent me a copy, you know. And finally, I got through it. I read it. At the time he was in training group, when I knew him, he had only done so many things. But after training group, well, he went to Vietnam, did real well, got decorated. I think he did like almost 2 years. But then he became a bouncer, a bodyguard for the guy that was shot and crippled, Hustler magazine.
Yeah,
Whatever his name is, that guy from Hustler became his bodyguard, an aide. Then he went to Rhodesia and became a mercenary. Then he went, I mean, just on and on. Boy, he had an interesting life. He's on Facebook. We're friends, but he has an interesting life. It's an interesting book. I just don't read anymore.
well, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Just reach up over here. Get up here. All right. This is a guy named Donald Brown, D.B. Brown. And I called him up. He's like 92 years old.
Wow.
And he said that his wife died 2 years ago. And I had just talked to another guy who was a friend of mine, and his wife died. And when I called him up and told him about the Zoom meeting for his team, he was the commander of the team. He said, my wife died. I don't do anything on the internet anymore. I can't handle it.
Yeah.
He just sort of gave up. And then I called him up a bit later, and his daughter answered the phone and said he passed away. His wife died. He just gave up, basically. Okay. Brown, 92 years old. His wife dies when he's 90. He spent a year writing this 66-page book. It's not a big book. Okay. And it's all about his wife.
Wow.
And he's 92 years old. He's still alive. He went and did that and kept him alive. Good for him.
I should live that long.
Yeah. And here's John Harrelson. A lot of you guys know. He wrote a book after he spent time in State Department or wherever, doing all kinds of things. There's books that I never knew were out there until I started going into this camp by camp. And people said, hey, I wrote a book. And they're there.
Yeah. You wrote a book, you say?
No, somebody I'm talking to him, and I'm talking about books that are out there. And so the guy would say, oh, I wrote a book. I would get that book. So I figured out that one of my next projects would be to put all those books, probably about 600 books, on a website, and let you just look at all SF books. You know, I'll break it down to fiction and nonfiction and Vietnam related and non-Vietnam related, in different ways to sort it. But it'd be all basically SF authors or books about SF people. You know, there's some good biographies out there, just a lot of material, but you're not going to know about it unless you hear about it somewhere.
Well, somebody told me I should write a book just for myself. And like, I don't have family. All I have is a daughter, period. And that's it. You know, she's not really that interested, I don't think. But yeah, there's a lot of Vietnam books. You know, I just don't think that's my style.
Look, it's up to you as an individual, and what do you want to say about different things. If you don't want to say anything, that's up to you.
Yeah.
At this point in our life, you know, we've got time on our hands, and we can do a lot of things toward recording some of the thoughts that we've had. And some of the books that I've read have been recent productions about this time in somebody's life. And they're interesting retrospectives on what has gone on. I'll tell you my personal opinion is that we came back. Some of us stayed in the service and stayed with friends for a long period of time. Others, like myself, got out, had no contact basically with other people until many years later.
Yeah, but you got contact now.
I have contact now, but I came back in 1968. It was not until 1988 that I even discovered there was such a thing as the Special Forces Association. So I had no contacts virtually for 20 years. And the problem is, while we were out of contact, we were encouraged not to talk. Nobody wanted to hear our story. Nobody wanted to hear our point of view. And as a result, people who knew nothing about the Vietnam War taught the Vietnam War, wrote the books about the Vietnam War, and created the mythology of the Vietnam War, most of which was wrong.
Yeah.
And all of which has led to the condition of the country we've got today. So, we failed to do our job by telling our story at that time.
That's what a lot of people tell me.
Yeah. Well, I'm associated with a group of people who is belatedly trying to counter this. And we put out 6 magazines, 14-volume series on the Vietnam War as a whole by year, and a lot of reference material that we reprinted because it was unreadable in the existing form. But the magazines are one of the interesting parts because I'm the editor for the whole works. And I choose what I want to write about, and then I find somebody to write it. So the latest project we have is this. And basically, it's a comic book.
Oh.
Right? And the idea is that we want to explain to younger people who aren't going to read a book anymore because it's not on their cell phone. We explain our perspectives on the Vietnam War and tell them why they're not getting good information and what bad information they're getting. So we just came out with that about last April, I guess it was, this year. And we're still working on how we're going to promote it.
When I taught ROTC, or junior ROTC, the history teachers, there was very little in the history books about Vietnam, and they knew less.
Yeah.
So they would have me give a presentation to class, hour and a half, and I'd start off with the history and build up and on and on. No war stories. And at the end, I'd give about 10 minutes or more for questions. But I wouldn't allow any questions like, did you kill anyone, But they were interested in the build-up and the operations and the food we ate and how we slept, how we lived. Because, I spent a year with the 173rd. That was a hard year. But, how we lived in the field, what we ate, So I did that many, many times when I was teaching junior ROTC. And the teacher said, pay attention because there's going to be test questions on what he says, So I said, okay. Yeah, a lot of people said, if you don't want to write a book, write like for yourself, your memoirs. And I don't know. I just don't think. See, I had a pretty nasty, I was a juvenile delinquent big time. Big time. When John Gotti points a gun at you, you're involved. I grew up in Brooklyn and New York. And so that was a pretty interesting life. And then I joined the military and I did my thing in the military. But I don't know, just if people be interested in that, they'd probably be more interested when I was before the Army. Yeah. Yeah, our gang, we had a big gang in Brooklyn, was gonna fight the gang that John Gotti was in. And there was supposed to be no weapons. So when the two forces faced each other, Gotti pulls out a gun and he backs us all up, you know. But then the police sirens and lights, they come flashing down into the park there and everybody ran, you know. But yeah, I mean, it was, but then we got involved in drugs and the drugs ruined us, you know, and petty crime. We were involved in crime. But it was sort of interesting. Finally, I joined the army to get away. I had to get away. So I joined the army. Well, I pushed my draft up. I went to the draft board and said, take me now, take me now. And they said, okay. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah, but you're living in a world today where the greatest concern of people is what pronoun you use. I'm not really worried about Putin going crazy and deciding he wants to nuke something, or
Yeah.
China deciding that they want to go take over Taiwan, and therefore take over the chip business. So, you know, the people that we have today, you know, you have the people, the police in Uvalde, more concerned about protecting their own lives than protecting the students in the school, right? You know, yeah, we didn't go out of our way to get killed in Vietnam, but we offered ourselves to serve in Vietnam with that prospect out there. And without people who are willing to do that, you really can't survive as a society. And if you leave it to these wusses, and you know, the woke schools, you got little hope for the future. So
Yeah.
Steven,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to sign off now, but I'll see you back at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And because Daryl Leach will be there.
okay,
Okay?
very good.
And he'll be a kicking shorts. But it was nice talking to you, gentlemen.
Take care.
Take care, sir.
You,
Okay,
Steve, you're gonna do one for B40?
B40 is Friday, Thursday rather, at 4 o'clock
Tomorrow
tomorrow,
at 4 o'clock Eastern.
Eastern.
I can go on there, right?
Yes, you can, Randy.
Well, I'd be curious. You know, maybe some of the guys went to B40, but as far as people assigned to be, the only one I really knew was Malika, you know.
Well, Malika is alive, but he is not, doesn't do internet.
I almost thought I read a obituary. His first name was Leon.
Yeah, no, I talked to him on the phone.
Oh, have you? Okay, good.
97 years old.
Wow.
Uh,
I saw him at a SFA reunion at Bragg about 5 years ago, maybe.
yeah.
We hung out quite a bit. He was sharp, but he was sort of feeble and like an old man, you know. But he was sharp up here, you know.
I talked to him on the phone. He sounded really good. And he said, well, I don't get around very much, but
Yeah.
he had full control of his faculties when I talked to him about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I worked for him also in Thailand.
Mhm.
He was the S3 ops sergeant. I was in the S3. For a couple of months, I worked with him. So we became good friends, you know, and then over the years, I'd see him at SFA reunions. And that one particular, his niece and her husband escorted him. They were his guests, but they were sort of, because he was sort of old and a little slow, you know, but yeah, he was sharp in mind, though. Yeah. But I don't know why I thought he passed away.
Well, when you get to be 97 years old, there's not a lot of people who expect you to be around.
And I was also surprised to find out he caught the tail end of World War II. He was in Europe on the tail end of World War II.
Well, Kittleson was in the Philippines in World War
Yeah,
II.
Kettleson was the Alamo Scout, and
Yeah.
he was like 18 years old, I think.
Yeah.
That he was on the Sante raid as well. So he goes.
Yeah, he was with Merrill's Marauders.
What?
Merrill's Marauders, Burma, as well.
That's right.
I didn't hear that part about it.
Who was Mel's Marauders?
If you look at the book Raider, that's the book they wrote about him. Actually, the co-writer on that book, or the writer on that book, took certain liberties. But the fact is that Kittleson served with Merrill's Marauders and in the Philippines. He served in Korea, served World War II, served Korea.
Kettleson was not Merle's
He's
Marauders.
one of the legends of our special forces.
I didn't hear about Merrill's Marauders. The Alamo Scouts, yes, he was involved in liberating some POW camps in the
And
Philippines.
Kettleson was not in Korea. He had break in service. He got out after World War II and then came back in after Korea.
I see. I thought the book said he had a chapter in Korea.
No, he was an Alamo Scout, not a Merle's Marauder.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Huh?
I'm wrong then. I thought the books included that.
He wrote the book. Well, he had it written for him. Raider,
Yes,
the only man to go on 5 POW raids, because he was on the Sante,
yeah.
and 3 in World War II.
The chapter in Vietnam names me as Ochoa instead of Garcia. So I don't know where that came from, but okay.
Yeah, he had a break in service after World War II, and then came back in after Korea.
I see.
Yeah. He didn't, we would have to ask him questions about the Alamo Scouts. He didn't talk about it too much, but he was willingly answer anything you asked him. But he didn't talk about it. I went out to the field on operations with him a lot. And he was always very confident, very sure, he didn't seem to have any fear or doubt or, he was very confident.
He came to the mobile guerrilla in Chau. He hadn't been there but a couple of weeks when we went on the operation up on Nui Coro. It was a blackjack operation. I think it was 42 or 41. I don't remember. The Mike Force came down and jumped in. And I told him, you just got here. You can stay at the camp if you want to. He says, no, when the team goes out, I go out with the team.
When we went on that raid for Roe, to rescue Roe, we were heavily loaded with ammunition. So we had a meeting and we asked him, well, Pappy, how many rounds are you taking? And he says 140, which is the basic load for an M16. So we're all taking like 500-600 rounds, He says, yeah, I got 140. He said, if I kill 140 and you guys get a few, we'll be okay. And I think he was serious, He says, if I can kill 140 and you guys get a few, we'll be okay. But he was very confident. Didn't seem to worry about anything on an operation. Yeah.
When we went on that operation on Nui Coro, when we got back to Chau, after we were back, the next morning, one of the NCOs comes to me and he says, sir, nobody hit the lieutenant, talking about Henry Cook. He says he was drinking because when we got back, I would allow half the team to drink, half the team stay sober. And Henry was sitting in the bunker where we kept the ammo on top of ammo boxes. Apparently he went to step down, and when he did, he lost his footing and he hit an ammo box and cut his eyebrow right across here. So I went to the dispensary and Kittleson was there, the rest of the team, and Henry was laid wide open right across here. The same kind of cut that a boxer gets when he hits his bone. And so I said, okay, Henry, we're going to use you as a training aid. Everybody in the team is going to put in 1 stitch. So we
Yeah.
put in 12 stitches. I put in the last 2. And Henry became a training aid for the rest of the team in sewing up a wound. He lived with that scar till his dying day about 3 years ago.
Yeah, Cook was there when I was there, but he left after some time. Then but he came back to Vietnam, and then he came back to Muckwa.
Yeah,
But
he came back in 68, he got wounded.
In 67, he was at Chau with us.
Yeah, that's when I left. I left in around May of 60. And I went to Canton and became the assistant 3. And from there, I left back to the States.
Yeah, I got to Chau August of 67.
Yeah, I was already in Canton.
Yeah. And Cook was there, but he
Was Lewis still the camo man?
was who?
Rocky Lewis.
Yeah, Rocky Lewis was there. But then he went to CCN.
Yeah, right.
Late in the year, he went to CCN. I kept in touch with him over the years. But I would see him at reunions. He
I
died.
saw him one time in Fayetteville. He opened up a radio shop and television repair shop in Fayetteville in Murchison Road. And I went there to say hello. And then I never saw him again.
Yeah, I would see him at reunions. But then he died about not quite 10
I
years.
didn't know he had passed.
Huh?
I didn't know he had passed.
Oh, yeah, he did. Rocky Lewis. But he set up the antennas and he had the radios, and guys would talk to their wives.
You know, I was just remembering that.
From
What he
Chau.
did was he took a palm tree, he cut a notch on the top of it, he put an antenna up there, and we would communicate with a retired admiral or somebody in California. He would patch us to talk to the wives.
Yeah. And guys would talk to their wives.
Yeah, he was a great camo man.
Yeah. I remember the call sign was Maritime Mobile. I think he would talk to ships too, and they would relay him, something like that.
You know, there at Chau, the Navy would bring some of their boats along the coast there and send a raft over with some of the Navy guys. And they would bring us ice cream and steaks, and we would trade them with all kinds of junk that meant nothing to us, you know. I think some of those flags have been made up in Haitien and shot full of holes, and we would trade them for ice cream and steaks.
Yeah, the Swift boats would come into Haitien.
Right, that's it.
Haitien, and we'd go down there and switch with them. We'd give them tiger fatigues, and they would give us food.
Exactly. We did that when I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think they got resupplied at Haitien, I think. And they would give us what they had left over or something.
You know, Henry died about 3 years ago. I went to see him. He was living in Mississippi. And he had a liver transplant. At first, he seemed to be recovering. And then all of a sudden, his lungs, he got pneumonia. And when I went to see him, he was almost gone.
You're talking about Cook, right?
I'm sorry?
You're talking about Cook?
Yeah, Henry Cook.
Henry.
He had a liver transplant, and it seemed to be okay. And then all of a sudden, he got pneumonia while he was in the hospital. And a couple of weeks later, he died.
Yeah, we contacted on Facebook and communicated on Facebook some. Yeah, I knew he had the transplant. Yeah. It was funny because he came right back. Well, he was 403 at Chau and then 402 at Muckwa.
Well, you know, when the stuff started in Kuwait, he ended up in Tampa with the Special Warfare Center there.
Yeah.
He worked there for during that conflict, the war in Kuwait, and then he went back home and he was with reserve, and he became very active in the Purple Heart organization, Purple Heart Awards, and ended up suing them because he thought they was mismanaging the funds.
At one point, he was also president of the Purple Heart Association, right?
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking. He sued them because they were mismanaging funds.
Oh, yeah. I never went to the field with him, but he was only there like, I got there and about like within a month or two, he was gone.
Well, you know, on that operation in Nui Koto, when we make contact,
What?
all of us, when we make contact on Nui Koto, all of a sudden we were getting fire on from the left flank. And I grabbed Henry and I said, Henry, give me about 4 people over there on that left flank. And he said, Ruben, I don't have 4 people. And I said, Henry, get 4 people. He went back, he got some of the troops that were hiding in a hole, and he shot the sawed-off carbine that he always carried into the hole and got some guys there. While he was running over there, I heard a shot, and the shot his boonie hat right off his head.
Yeah. But that must have been before I got there, because
Yeah, that was before you got there.
yeah, because my Nui Koto operation was
My force came from Natrang and jumped in.
yeah, mine was about August to September.
That would have been in May. That was in May.
Okay.
Up there.
Well, I remember, I think Kettleson used to talk about it, and Frank Moran, you remember him?
Yeah.
Frank Moran, he was a combo man.
Yes, I remember him too, Randy.
Yeah, Moran. He's in the Philippines now. Well, I talked to him, email, must be about 5, 6, 7 years ago. I talked to him email, Moran. And he was in the Philippines living with a lady, good looking lady, because he sent me a picture. Yeah.
About Johnny Dollar and those guys.
Yeah,
Oscar McDonald.
Dollar was at Chau with us. And then I think he went to Canto, I think. But then he passed away about 10 years ago, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
and
He always made me laugh. He always made me laugh, Johnny Dollar. I don't know if you remember, were you still there in February of '68 at Chau?
Not me, no, I went to Canto and I left Canto in October the 6th of 67.
No. No, I mean, Mateo, were you there in January '68 at Chau? Or were you gone?
I was gone. I was up in Canto. I was up in B40.
No.
We had 4-3 up there.
We got a young kid named Scott. Okay, and Kettleson he was a weapons man, and Kettleson had me and Scott trained on the stand down, trained some guys on the 60 mortar and the 57 recoilless rifle. So we worked together for over a week. He got killed. Scotty was killed on an operation, but his fiance saw my name on an SF site on the internet, 4243, and she emailed me, and she told me the story that was her fiance. Anyway, she's writing a book about him. She had 57 letters that he had written her while in Vietnam. So she asked me if I would read the letters, make sure there's nothing classified or nothing bad. I said, okay, I'll do that. So she mailed 57 letters to me. And little by little, I read them all, But it was almost like having an attack, It was really, to be reading what he was writing her while he was at Chau, you know, and it was a little eerie. But anyway, I don't know if you remember Scott. His name was David Scott.
No, I don't.
I remember you. I remember Pinocchio, Gotzi, Watson, Morin. Yesterday for 4-2, Burdish was on here. John Burdish.
Yeah, I remember him. Thornburg, Burdish, Jesse Flores. You remember Jesse
Who?
Flores?
Yeah, the name.
Flores.
I can't put a picture of the face. When I got to Chau, Griffith, Captain Griffith was there. I don't know if you remember him. Captain Griffith.
Oh. Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Well, Griffith, there was Hendricks and Griffith were the two captains, but Hendricks was like the overall guy. Griffith found out that I had spent a year in Vietnam with the 173rd. So he says, we're going out on operation tomorrow. You want to go? So I thought, well, what was I going to say? No, you know? So anyway, what was I going to do? Say no? But there was so many guys in camp, I didn't remember a lot of people. And then we went on the operation, and then we came back, and still, there were some people that I remember well, and there was a couple that I look at rosters that Sherman has, you know, and I don't recognize some of the names. I asked him yesterday, Dubois. I don't know if you remember, he was a lieutenant. He had been a enlisted man, went to OCS, had been in Vietnam as a LERP, was one of the American units, and then came to SF. I saw his name on there. But I guess I remember Morin. I sort of hung around with Morin a bit. Yeah.
Yursik was there too. You remember Yursik?
Who?
Yursik. Yursik.
No, I spell it. No, my hearing is bad.
Let me see. IERTASAK or something like that.
No. My hearing is bad. I have hearing aids, but I never wear them. But you know, it was almost like two full teams there. There was a lot of people there at one time.
Yeah, it sure is. That's why I say, you know, when we go, boy, we have so many operations going on one time. Sometimes you see them coming, you see them going, and
yeah,
everybody getting on the caribou, and we hit it out.
Yeah, I like I said, it was some people I remember well, and there was like little groups that hung out together. You see, like I remember you, I remember Pinocchio, I remember some others, but I never interacted with you guys. I don't think. Like I said, I remember when you cooked the pig.
Remember John Calvert? You remember Calvert? He used to operate the 4 Deuce all the time.
Calvin?
But a medical tent that had a big pit over there. Every night we used to go for firing at night, and every evening we used to stay over there. And then rotate and stuff like that.
What was the name?
Calvert. John Calvert.
We had a Calvert, but his first name was Ray. He wore MacV patch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Calvert. We got to Nha Trang at the same time, processed, got assigned to 4th Corps, and the Sergeant Major at 4th Corps at the C team sent us both to Chau. So, you know, we got fairly close. Then he went on that Nui Koto operation, and then we went on the raid to get Nick Rowe. He was there for 10 of 68, but then he was not SF qualified, if we're talking about the same guy. He was not SF. He volunteered for 6 months if he could go to SF. Because I think right after we
I
converted,
think you're right about that. I think you're very right about that.
I have a picture of him, but I was looking for it yesterday. He wore a Mac V patch.
Yeah, he's an intelligent individual. Especially, he knew what he was talking about when he talked to full deuce and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was a weapons man, and I even think he was a Korean War vet. I think he was sort of older. He was well into his 30s, wasn't he?
You may be right on that. You may be right.
If we're talking about the same guy, but I remember his name was Ray, R-A-Y, or maybe Raymond, I don't know. Ray Calvert.
C-A-L-V-E-R-T?
Huh?
C-A-L-V-E-R-T?
Correct.
Yeah, that's it.
He doesn't show up on your roster because I don't think he was SF qualified.
No, I don't show up either.
His first name was Ray. And like I say, I think his background was he extended for 6 months in Vietnam, only if he could go to SF. And we processed through the train together, and then all the way down to Company D, all the way to Chau.
Yeah, but I should have him somewhere, because even if he wasn't SF, he should have gotten something that has his name on it.
We had another guy on the team at Mukwa who was not SF qualified, and like I say, volunteered for 6 months if he could go to SF. McMichaels. But I think eventually he did go SF, or maybe he got SF qualified because of his time in Vietnam with SF, because he ended up in Panama with the 8th. And then he was killed in a boating accident at Bragg.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mac Michael.
McMichael.
I remember him. Yep.
Yeah, he was demo man.
Demo, yeah. Yeah. But at the time he came to us, I don't think he was SF qualified. But then again, I heard that he was in Panama with the 8th and then Bragg with SF.
Yeah, he's on the list. Like Michael says, he's demo.
Yeah.
70.
He was a good friend.
Mhm.
He also came out of Fuqua.
Mm.
He came out of Fuqua.
He seemed to be a little bit late for your story, though.
Huh?
He's late. He was a Spec 5 in 1970.
Yeah, he was Spec 5.
Randy, you mentioned that you were with the 173rd? Randy,
What?
you mentioned that you were with the 173rd. Did you go to Taiwan for the shakedown before you
No,
guys went to Vietnam?
I got there after they were in Vietnam. I got there in November of 65.
Oh, see, okay. Because when I got back in 64 from my first tour, we went from the first to Vietnam. And when I got back in 64, I went as a referee for the shakedown tour in Taiwan. That was an interesting exercise.
I was in B Company, 1st Battalion, 503rd. 65 to 66.
Yeah, they went from the 503rd to the 173rd.
Yeah. See, when I was at Bragg with the 82nd, a levy came down for the first Cav. They were building it up to send to Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of us volunteered, but I didn't get selected. Then another levy came down again for the first Cav. And I volunteered, and again, I didn't get selected. So thinking I was going to miss the war in Vietnam, I was naive. 1965.
Oh.
I took a short and re-enlisted for the 173rd. Says, well, I'm going to make that war. So I took a short and re-enlisted for the 173rd. I couldn't re-enlist for the first camp because they were already in transit. They were en route to Vietnam. So you can't re-enlist for a unit in that status. So they said, well, you go to 173rd. I said, okay. So I took a short and re-enlisted for the 173rd. And it was interesting.
Well, you know, I got to brag in 56 and took a while to get into special forces. And when I finally did, after we finished the training, I was a weapons man, light weapons. I ended up as a training aide in what they then called the Gabriel demonstration area. I don't know if it's still used or not, Gabriel. And my first time there, they were putting on a pony show for some visiting dignitaries from South America. And my job was to put on spikes and climb a pine tree and stay up there with a machine gun. And at a given moment, start firing to demonstrate how Special Forces was so sneaky that we would climb up in a pine tree with a machine gun and scare the hell out of all the people sitting in the bleachers. But that was around 61 by then. Long time. Gabriel was one of the first SF guys to get killed in Vietnam.
I was only with SF in Vietnam and Thailand. I was never SF in the States.
I see.
After training group, when I graduated, I went right to Vietnam. Then I bounced back and forth. I did spend 2 years at JFK Center, but you know, not on the teams. So I don't know too many guys unless I knew them in Vietnam or Thailand on the teams, you know.
Got you.
Yeah, I didn't know too many. I used to go to 173rd reunions, but I haven't been in years and years and years.
Well, you know, SF originally was in the old division area, and then it went up to Smoke Bomb Hill.
No. Yeah, I was never SF in the States, except at JFK Center for 2 years.
Right.
That was miserable.
What year were you at JFK?
73 to 75.
Okay.
G3 training.
I came back and went to the 2nd Battalion of the 5th as the XO. By that time, I was a major. I had already been to Command and General Staff. And Lieutenant Colonel McMull was the CO. I was the XO. And then about 3-4 months later, I went out to Mott Lake in what used to be Blue Light. They still call it Blue Light, some people did, but it was called the Special Weapons Training. And we did sniper training. We did hostage recovery, that kind of stuff at Mott Lake. We were at Mott Lake. Shortly thereafter, that organization got moved back into Fort Bragg proper. But by April 1, 1980, I retired on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, when I got back to Bragg from the 46th company, I was in 11F, up O&I, you know, and they put me in a G3. But, you know, I said, okay. Yeah.
All right, who have we got here joining us?
I'm sorry?
Hey, Stephen, need to interrupt a minute. I need to get going. It's been great talking to all of you, and nice seeing you again, especially you, Randy, Ruben. Take care.
You, sir.
And, we'll talk again sometime.
Glad you can make it. Remember, you got all the emails on the email I sent you, so you can get in contact with each other.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
great. Take care of yourselves now.
You too.
Thank you. I'm taking my leave. Have a good day, guys.
All
Take
right.
care.
Let's
Nice
see.
hearing from you. Nice talking to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fellow who joined us over here has not got a microphone on. So I can't find out who it is. Turn on your microphone. Go down to the bottom of your picture and you'll put your cursor down to the bottom of the screen under the pictures. and you'll see some icons, one of which is a microphone. And you want to turn it on. Now you're doing it. Okay.
I'm gonna leave, I think, for a little bit.
All right, Charles, make sure you send me that contact information from McKay.
Yeah, I just sent it to on your chat thing. Check and see if you got it.
Okay, I got it here.
All right. I'll be back for A404 here in about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. See you guys.
Okay, now you can speak as soon as you turn your microphone back on again. Okay. Who's that? J.A. Big. Speak. Hello. Can you hear me? Your microphone is on, but I don't see you. Let me see if I can. Nope. I'm going to shut the recording off here and I will start it up again shortly. Stop recording.